Hello, Book Amigos. It is Gray here, and I am back with a brand new video. And now we're going to keep this lighthearted and simple because I think a questionnaire would benefit. I know I don't have a lot of subscribers. I know I don't have a lot of followers. I know all this stuff. So I recruited to my old friend Google and literally did a little cheeky Google search where I asked other questions for YouTube videos. So hopefully this works in everybody's benefit and you guys get to know me a little bit better and decide if you want to subscribe or not. So no pressure to you and no pressure to me. And yeah, let's get the show on the road, shall we? Okay, we are gonna hit. So this article thing is divided into different categories. So we're gonna hit the author background questions. And the first question is, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer? And this question, it's taken me a while to kind of figure out when I knew I wanted to be a writer, only because when I was in grade school, I didn't speak English very well, so I was always marked down on my essays. I actually had a high school teacher tell me that I was not a good writer at all. I had a university professor, tell me that I would never write a book. And what I gotta say to y'all is, not only have I written 2 poetry books, but I've also written a whole novel. So there's a video coming out on that soon. But for now, let's stick to the question. I think I realized that I wanted to be a writer back when I was a child. I was in elementary school probably. I don't know if you guys remember if you had this in your school, but there were moments where throughout the school year where we were allowed to write a book and it would get sent somewhere and it would come back with like a thing of either got published or not, but it had those silver, my mic fuzz is flying everywhere. Oh, now I'm distracted. Anyways, dang it, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, it had like those silver stamps on it, silver, gold, whatever. I wish I had one, but I don't. I know I got one, but I don't know where that stuff is at anymore. But anyway, I think I realized then that I wanted to write a book one day because I really, really enjoyed doing that. But also, I don't know if you had these as a child, but I had those Disney books with the gold binding. I feel like that series of books, collection of books, if you will, has a name to it, but I can't think of it right now. So, I found out then I wanted to be a writer because I would do what is called mimic writing, or maybe it has a different name to it. I don't know. Point being is, I used to buy notebooks and I used to copy word for word every single page of a book. Every single page. Not only that, get this, I would also copy the illustrations page for page. And at the end, when I was done, I would go tell my mom and my dad, like, look, I wrote a book. So throughout, obviously, it was in my book, but I was maybe like 5, 6, I don't know, maybe a little bit older, maybe like 7, 8. I don't know. Point being, I did that a lot, and I enjoyed that to the point where I knew I wanted to write a children's book one day, and I am currently working on that right now. So, breaking news. Let's do the SpongeBob voice. Breaking news. Gray author G.R. Luna is working on a children's book. Stay tuned. Anyways, that is my childish side popping out. But yes, that's when I realized I wanted to be a writer. Oh, hold on. I'm back. Sorry, I had a minor inconvenience. But I think I finished answering that question. So the next question is, What are your favorite books to read and how have they influenced your writing? So, the first part, what are my favorite books to read? I like to read pretty much anything and everything. Unpopular opinion, I don't think I can have a favorite genre because I feel like if I read too much romance, it starts to get very repetitive and I just can't get into it no more. Same thing with thrillers, same thing with whatever else. So, with that being said, my favorite kinds of books to read are those family life books. I like to read about realistic life experiences, the challenges, the obstacles, the highs and the lows. I like to read about real life stories. Being Mexican American, I grew up watching Casos de la Vida Real, Decisiones, La Rosa de Guadalupe. Those are shows that are very, very dramatic and they touch upon a lot of real life stuff. And I think it's safe to say that that's what I like to read. And that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from. I like books. If a book can make me cry, I am there for it. 100%, 110%. I am there for it. It will probably be on my top 10 for sure. Because if a book made me cry, it means that it tugged at my heartstrings and it's just, I don't know. I also like to read things where I feel seen, I feel acknowledged, I feel understood. And the way these kinds of stories have influenced my writing is that they've made me feel comfortable and sure of not being afraid to write about sensitive topics, meaningful topics, real life situations. Like, it's okay to get serious in a fictional story because there's a lot of people out there that want to experience being seen. A lot of people read not only to escape the world, but I think it's very common that people read to understand themselves a little bit more. Something that a lot of people don't like to admit. But that's the kind of books that I like to read, and it's the kind of books that I like to write, and that's how they influence my writing because it gives me the green light to write what I want to write, I guess. Hopefully that made sense. Next question. What is your favorite part about being an author? This one is interesting because I just realized this not that long ago. One of my favorite things about being an author is when I am asked when I share a manuscript or an idea or something with someone, and then they ask, and how does it end? Or what happens next? Or anything to that relation. And my answer to that question is typically, I don't know. And it's true, I don't know. So in writing, part of the writing process is defined by whether you're a planner or a pantser. Planner being somebody who plans, brainstorms, has outlines, and all that good stuff. Or a pantser, somebody who just goes in blind and just writes. That is me. I'm a pantser. I just write. So when I share something with someone, let's say the first 2 chapters or the first 3 chapters or whatever, and I'm hit with what's going to happen next, I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. And the way people react to that, it just blows my mind because they're like, how do you not know? Like, you're joking with me, right? Like, you simply don't want to tell me. How rude. And I'm like, no, I really don't know. It hasn't been written. I haven't thought about it. I'm not there yet. I don't know. I'm on chapter 3 and there's going to be about 30 chapters, and an idea that I might have now is not going to, it's going to dwindle into something else along the way, and chapter 34 is going to be completely different. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about being an author. Next question. What advice would you give to aspiring authors? I'm looking over here because my laptop is over here. I can show you. See? And like I said, I used the old Google to figure this out or find questions. But what advice would I give aspiring writers? I think I would tell aspiring authors to just write. I know that is easier said than done, but for me personally, I spend a lot of time wondering, should I do it? What if I do it? But what if this? But what if that? A lot of what ifs. And breaking news, what ifs do not exist. So just write. There's no right way of doing it. There's no wrong way of doing it. Everybody has their own writing styles, their own way about going, their own way of going about things. I don't know what the heck happened there, but there's no perfect way of writing. You just simply gotta go for it and do you. I think a big one for me too is striving for perfection. And if I can tell an aspiring writer anything, is you're not going to be perfect. Never. Not even your final draft is going to be perfect. And a good example of this is, I believe, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. When it was released, there was a lot of errors in the final copy. It was already in bookstores, ready to be bought, and errors were found. And that just goes to say that even the professionals who traditionally publish and have publishers and all that good stuff make mistakes. They are not perfect. And that's very, very important. And I stick to it 1000%. Like, I'm not going to be perfect. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But I got to learn that one way or another. And that's something I would tell an aspiring writer. You're not going to be perfect. And that is okay. Imperfection is perfection, and it makes you real, and it makes you relatable, and it makes you likable. The one time I heard somebody say this, not that I agree with it, but I heard somebody say, Taylor Swift is not Adele. She does not sing like Adele. Adele sings beautifully, but Taylor Swift delivers in a way that has sold out an entire tour for her. And not saying that Adele doesn't deliver, because she does, but it's a different kind of delivering. And I feel like the point here is that Taylor Swift is relatable. She makes herself approachable, if you will. Hopefully that made sense, because, yeah. And I love both. I love Taylor Swift. Oh my God, as a writer, Taylor Swift is... I would take a class about Taylor Swift. I want to learn the ins and outs of her writing skills, because she is a legend. And I think that's another thing to tell aspiring authors or writers. Look for your niche. Look for the way that you want to write something. And if you want to write similar to Taylor Swift, then study Taylor Swift and figure it out. If you want to write like Adele, study Adele and figure it out. So I think those are important points. Sorry, I just got a message. But yes, I think those are very, very important things. And hopefully that made sense. Next question. La pregunta dice, have you always written in this genre, or have you explored others? So, I've self-published 3 books, 2 poetry books and 1 novel. And the novel is contemporary fiction, and I poured my heart and soul into it. It is titled Without a Choice. And then we have my poetry books. And I will say between the two poetry books, there is very different poetry. Well, it's very similar. They're similar to one another, but the topics are very different, drastically different. And then, of course, there is the novel, which is contemporary fiction, but there's also poetry in the novel. I think it's important to mention that it is my debut novel, and I will make a separate video for it. I promise. It might be the next video. Who knows? But I will make a separate video all about my novel, the ins and outs. But I am currently working on my second novel, and it is leaning towards thriller vibes, psychological vibes, that kind of stuff. I do have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a bachelor's in Spanish, and I have a master's in creative writing. So I am tapping into the psychological aspect of things, and we'll see how that turns out. So this is the first time that I'm writing in a different genre, and I'm exploring and I'm taking it all in. I do love me some Frida McFadden, and I love the twists and turns and ins and outs and the oh my god, I didn't see that coming moments. So I don't know, I think it's going to be interesting, and I really like it so far. I will also be talking about that in a later video. And last but not least, in this bunch of questions, we have, what is the most surprising thing you learned while writing this book? So I'm assuming this is relating to a specific book, but since I've only written one novel, I'm going to focus on that. I think one of the most surprising things that I learned is, or as an author / writer, like altogether, I think that I keep saying I think, sorry, I apologize for that. But the fact of the matter is, I have learned that writing can be healing. Writing is a lonely, lonely job. And being an author is cheering yourself on most of the time. As an indie writer, and I'm speaking based off of my own personal experience, it has been hard to sit in a room and write, sit in a cafe and write, sit wherever and write, and know that I'm missing out on other things. Giving up family time, giving up time with my child and my fiance has been challenging, but I have learned that it can, and it is super rewarding. When I hear my child run around and say, "Oh, mommy's book," I mean, it melts my heart. It really does. And it makes everything worth it. So I've learned that being an author can be a lonely, lonely dream. But man, is it fulfilling and satisfying. And it's something else that I learned is that doing author stuff and writing is not understood by very many people. And that is why I made a book talk a year and a half ago, because I wanted to find people that understood that feeling of being a writer, understood that loneliness that comes with, and I say loneliness a lot, but honestly, it isn't that bad. It is lonely, but I don't know how to explain it. I feel like if you're a writer, you understand what I'm saying. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And finding people who you can relate with and people that you have things in common with is very, very important and detrimental. But it is also important to not rely on those people, because you just never know when it can go south. And that is the toxic side of being an author / writer. Especially on a platform like Book Talk. But that is a story for another day. I'm not going to go there right now. So I think let me check, because the questions that are on my laptop are different from the ones that are on my phone for some reason. Like, it's the same Google search, but the questions are different. Do you have any other creative pursuits outside of writing? That's a good one. Creative pursuits, yes, I do. I love to cross stitch, and I love painting, acrylic painting. And what else? I do a lot of DIY projects. I like building stuff. One of my favorite stores is Lowe's, especially when I have an idea. I like to Pinterest things, and then I look at my fiance and I say, I think we gotta go to Lowe's. I would like to do this, and this, and he delivers. We go figure it out, and we do whatever the project is. I like to do a lot of that stuff. Yeah, cross stitching right now is a big one, and I haven't painted anything in a while. In a long while, actually. I don't know, it's just, I haven't gravitated towards it. I went to Michael's the other day and I bought a little crocheting kit so I can learn. I can show you guys. Oh, and I bought a cross stitch. Hold on. Let me get it so I can show y'all. I just realized that probably sounded horrible on the mic, but these are my new things that I bought. The first one is a cross stitching project, and this is what it is. It's books, and I cannot wait to do this. And it says, love is when you look in someone's eyes and see everything you need. Very corny, but I believe it 100%. And this is a crochet kit. I've never learned how to crochet, and I don't have high hopes for this. Maybe I'll do this on a video, but I don't have high hopes for it because I don't know that I can figure it out. But it's this. My fiance, he likes plants and stuff, so it's a little planter and it's a little sloth. My son likes sloths, so makes perfect sense. Hopefully I can figure it out. Let me see. What's another question? So those are other creative pursuits outside of writing. I also like doing this stuff. I like making TikTok videos. I like being silly. And I just like all this stuff as well. And I think those are all the questions I have. Hopefully. Oh, how long have you been writing? How did you start writing? I've been writing for all my life, honestly. All my life. I've been confident in my writing since 2015-ish, when I shared my poetry with my roommate at the time, and she was like, dude, I don't like what you're writing about, but this is good. And after graduating university with my bachelor's in psychology and Spanish, she was like, why don't you pursue writing? And sure enough, I reached out to the university and I said, hey, I'd like to join your online program. She said, okay, send me a portfolio of your writing and we'll determine if you are qualified. And she asked, how much time do you need? And I said, how many poems, how many things do you need for the portfolio? And she told me, and I said, well, I can send that in 10 minutes. And here we are. Can you share an exciting or remarkable story of your writing career? Right now, the most remarkable thing for me currently is seeing my book in a local bookstore and also seeing my book on people's bookshelves. That is so surreal, and that is it's an unexplainable feeling. I don't know how to explain that. I was gonna get the book, but it's up there somewhere. 3, have you experienced writer's block? I think this is more tailored to writing? Of course I've experienced writer's block. Who hasn't? How do I get through it? Just do. Read a book, watch TV, start talking out loud, like rereading, talking about my writing endeavors with my fiance. He listens to everything I say when I'm talking about my writing projects and everything. And honestly, I don't think he understands half of the stuff I'm saying, but he's nodding and he's listening and he's saying things and he's giving me feedback and whatnot. And honestly, I love it and I appreciate it so much. Maybe I should interview him. How does it feel to have a author fiance? Let me know in the comments if you would like that. I would totally love to interview him. I think he would be up for it. I'm not sure. What do you think about the role of readers? What do you plan to write next? So the role of readers, that's a good one. And I think I'll probably end there. So, as an author, the role of readers is to read and enjoy. I am not a fan of people who expect somebody to read their book and piece things together and try to dissect. That was a problem that I had as a reader throughout high school, grade school, whatever it is, because oftentimes, especially with poetry, I feel like there's this weird thing about having to dissect poetry and just anything that you read, really, lyrics, whatever, books, literature, anything across the board. There's this obsession with dissecting stuff. And sometimes as writers, like being on the opposite side of the token, which is writing, we just write. There's nothing to it. We just write. And I expect my readers to just read. Enjoy what you're reading. If it tugs at your heartstrings, let it. If it makes you cry, grab the tissues. If it makes you want to reach out to someone, whatever. But just be a reader. There's no wild expectation of anything. And I think it's important to point that out, just because that's what it is. You're reading. Enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is. Don't dissect it. Just let it be. But yeah, with that being said, I think that concludes this portion of the video. Well, this video in general, because I think this is where I'm going to leave it off. I was going to do some writing sprints, but I feel like I've dragged. Why can't I speak? I feel like I've dragged this out already so long, and I've answered a few questions, and hopefully you got to know me a little bit more as an author/writer. I love sharing these things. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Also, let me know if you would like me to do a video where I interview my fiance and ask him a few questions on what it's like for him to have a fiance who is an author/writer. I keep saying and doing things like that. But with that being said, I think I am going to end the video here. So if you are still watching, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, and subscribe. I know that is so throwback, but here we are. And we will see you next time, Book Amigos. We'll see you next time, Book Amigos. Toodles. Hasta la próxima. Besitos.